So, hi everyone. So we are going to understand some of the few things here, especially it's a common interview questions, or they tend to ask you, or rather you tend to get them when you get employed. Somehow you will tend to meet them, or rather work with those some of these terms, or some of these things that we are tend to talk about. For example, we are going to talk about virtualization, domain controller, and active directory. So we are going to understand all these things, how they work. Basically, I'm going to try to explain it before we dive into the practical, so that you understand them first. Then that when you understand them, you understand them first, so that when we dive into the practical, you are able to understand whatever is going on. So when we talk about virtualization, domain control, and active directory, first of all, you need to understand that to what particular time, what happened that made a decision that we need to be using virtualization, we need to go to domain controller and active directory. So basically, before the introduction of active directory, domain controller, and visualization, you need to understand that we used to have company used to the old companies, the traditional companies. For example, let's say this is a traditional company. Traditional companies used to have offices within them, right? In these offices, they used to have computers in each and every office in this particular company. And the same company used to have a very physical server. So this physical server used to manage all these computers, all these computers, all these computers. So it comes at times where a company wanted to expand. You see, when a company wanted to expand, uh, this particular physical server, one particular server, cannot able to manage all the computers once a company has decided to do what? To expand. So this made companies to spend more money in purchasing more hardware servers, or rather physical servers, that can support all the computers that are available in that particular building. Remember, one physical server could by that time could serve few computers, but once the company decided to expand and have more and have more computers, then it will force a company to invest in more physical servers, which somehow got to be so much expensive. So when this happened, companies this is where the introduction of virtualization came by. So when you talk about virtualization, this is now where the modern companies will have, for example, let's talk about this is a modern company. Example, this company has users. This office has 20 users, 30 users, 40 users, and all that. So this company will go to those particular companies that sell servers, and they will buy a server, one very big server. When talk about one very big server, probably it has a RAM of this particular server has a RAM of maybe 250 GB, 250 GB storage probably 1 terabyte, whatever you want. So you'll find that when they buy one big physical server, then they will install an operating system called VMware. So when this VMware has been installed in this particular server, then this particular virtualization, this is what we call virtualization. This virtual VMware software is the one that is now going to able to serve all these computers, or manage all these computers that are going to be available with all these offices. So this is how it works. So when a VMware is installed inside a physical server, then you will the physical server will now tend to you will now divide the storage and the RAM within the physical server. For example, if it is have 250 GB, you will use the VMware will now decide that I want to use maybe the 50 RAM, 50 GB RAM, and probably 250 GB storage. So it's not going to use all the RAM and the storage in this particular physical hardware. But in this particular physical hardware, we can have several. We can have several virtual VMware. So when this happen, then we call it virtualization. Virtualization is just a process where you buy a physical hardware, one physical hardware, then you install a VMware, or rather the virtualization within this particular this particular physical hardware. So once this happened, then we call it virtualization. So this VMware, this particular one, can able to serve so many computers within the office block. Now let's talk about the domain controller. So you have an office. This office, we've said it has several computers, and these computers want to be managed by a physical server. And this particular physical server, we have a virtual software. A virtual software, it can be VMware, it can be VirtualBox, whatever one you want to use. But for example, this case, let's talk about the VMware. So when you have a VMware installed inside the physical server, so this particular VMware, or rather the operating system, when we talk about the VMwares, we again going to install something called, if you have the virtual operating system, we are going to in this virtual system, we are going to now to install Windows. Now this one will now install Windows Server. So when a Windows Server has been installed in this virtual in VMware, so once it has been installed, remember, this is the one that is going to manage all these computers. It is the one that is going to manage all the several computers we have in the company. Then inside it, we are going to install something called Active Directory. So it is within the Windows Server now that you are able to going to install what? Active Directory. So once we have Active Directory within the Windows Server, then we call this particular server a domain controller. A domain controller is a Windows server that has Active Directory. But now the work of Active Directory is to manage all the computers we have within the office. Now the funny thing is this: when an Active Directory is able to manage a computer, when a computer is connected to the Active Directory, this will give a company the power, or rather the control, of managing or getting through every user's computers that is connected with this particular network. For example, if user A is connected to this particular computer, if this person has his logins, is able to come to this particular computer and also log into this particular computer. That's why we talk about work group and domain computers. Domain computers, it has been connected to the domain, which is Active Directory. So when it happens, any person within that particular company that is available within the Active Directory is able to connect in all these particular computers. So that's how to know the difference between virtualization, to be put a virtual to a server, make a server to be virtual. Another domain controller is that particular server that has what? Active Directory. And Active Directory is the one that manages all the computer within the company. I hope you understood. So we'll go to practical and do it practically. Have a nice day.